The camera pans across a grey, overcast Washington morning. Capitol Hill looms in the distance, an emblem of democracy now paralysed by deadlock. It's the second week of the government shutdown, and the corridors of Congress echo with the sound of frustration and political fatigue. Outside the Speaker's briefing room, cameras click and microphones extend as journalists crowd for position. The door opens. US House Speaker Mike Johnson strides in, expression set, papers in hand. He is about to deliver one of the most consequential appeals of his tenure, an appeal not to his party, but across the aisle. Johnson steps up to the podium. Behind him, Republican lawmakers file in, their faces a mixture of resolve and exhaustion. The crisis has entered its 14th day. Federal workers remain unpaid, agencies shuttered, millions of Americans brace for delays in healthcare payments, food assistance, and veterans' benefits. The House Speaker begins. His tone is measured, but urgency pierces every word. We need 5 Democrats to break ranks, he says, voice rising. We need 5 of them to wake up and come to their senses and do the right thing for the American people. Reporters exchange glances. The number 5 hangs in the air like a political lifeline. He continues, how long are they going to allow this pain to be sustained? I talked to the president last night. He called me after the peace deal was done, and he and I both lament, we all do, this terrible situation that we're in. It's a rare crossover of domestic crisis and foreign triumph, a moment where governance at home falters even as diplomacy abroad celebrates success. The reference to the peace deal, a nod to President Trump's recent Middle East ceasefire breakthrough, only underscores the contrast. Abroad, progress. At home, paralysis. Johnson steps back, gripping the lectern. He knows his words will dominate headlines. In the press gallery, the room hums. For many in Washington, this is the familiar theatre of brinkmanship, a recurring crisis where both parties trade blame while the country waits for relief. The Speaker raises his voice again. Democrats seem to be doing everything except the one thing that Americans need and deserve, and that's passing our clean CR to get the government operating again. That's all we're asking of them. Stop the political stunts. Stop the madness. Stop saying that you're enjoying inflicting pain on the American people, for goodness sakes, and pass the clean CR. The CR, or continuing resolution, has become the battleground of this shutdown. Republicans insist it's clean, a temporary measure to keep the government open while negotiations continue. Democrats counter that it omits critical extensions of healthcare subsidies and social protections. For now, the deadlock endures. Johnson presses on, his tone sharpened by frustration. You don't play games with people's lives. They're the ones playing politics, not us. I've explained this, and I'll say it again. If there was something that we could peel off of the CR, if I could take a Republican priority or policy or trick or gimmick off the CR and make it more palatable for the Democrats in the Senate to vote for, I would have already done so. Behind him, aides nod quietly. The message is aimed as much at the American public as at the Democratic caucus. As he concludes, the Speaker steps away from the podium. Cameras follow him as he exits through the side door. Reporters shout follow-up questions, but Johnson keeps walking, his silence now speaking louder than his words. Outside, the marble corridors are lined with staffers checking their phones, waiting for signs of movement from the other chamber. None comes. At this point, the shutdown has already furloughed nearly 800,000 federal employees. National parks are closed. Passport services suspended. Even the Pentagon warns of delayed pay for service members if the impasse drags on. What began as a disagreement over spending priorities has morphed into a test of political endurance. A day earlier, Johnson had met Senate Republican leaders in the Capitol. Photos from that meeting show him standing shoulder to shoulder with party elders, projecting unity amid chaos. The Speaker's message to them was the same as his message to the press today. Hold the line. Force Democrats to vote. But unity in Washington is rarely permanent. Whispers already circulate about moderates within Johnson's own ranks, growing restless as the shutdown deepens. In political Washington, crises like these are cyclical. Each shutdown follows a familiar pattern: urgent appeals, partisan blame, and eventually a late-night compromise that restores the machinery of government, at least temporarily. But this one feels different. President Trump's foreign policy victories have emboldened his party, giving Republican negotiators new leverage. But Democrats argue that leverage should not come at the cost of domestic stability. Across town, federal workers gather near Lafayette Park, holding signs that read, "We can't afford politics and pay us for our work." Many have missed their second paycheck. For them, the gridlock isn't a headline. It's rent, groceries, and health insurance on the line. Political analysts say Johnson's demand for 5 Democrats is both tactical and symbolic. The Speaker needs just 5 votes to overcome the procedural block and send his resolution to the Senate. In a chamber of 435, 5 lawmakers hold the power to end a national standoff. It's a dramatic reminder of how razor-thin the margins of governance have become. Inside the Democratic caucus, aides say their refusal isn't about obstruction, it's about substance. They insist that without an extension of healthcare subsidies, millions could lose coverage within months. For them, agreeing to a clean CR without those guarantees is politically impossible. The Speaker, however, frames it differently, as moral responsibility. In his view, the Democrats are punishing the public to win a policy fight. Political commentators note that both narratives resonate. One appeals to principle, the other to pragmatism. But while leaders spar over language, the clock continues to tick. Each day of shutdown deepens the economic cost. By conservative estimates, the US economy is losing nearly $300 million per day in productivity and delayed spending. For a nation still recovering from global conflict and inflation pressures, another shutdown feels like déjà vu. It's a self-inflicted wound, one that undermines confidence both at home and abroad. International markets watch nervously. Credit agencies warn that prolonged paralysis could dent the US credit rating, just as it did a decade ago. As dusk settles over the Capitol, the rotunda glows in the fading light, a symbol of resilience, but also of repetition. Lawmakers head to closed-door meetings. Negotiators shuffle between offices. Statements are drafted, leaks timed, spin-readied. The question remains, will 5 Democrats cross the line, or will the government's doors remain shut for yet another week? The Speaker's earlier words echo through the closing frames. Stop the madness. Stop saying that you're enjoying inflicting pain on the American people. The camera zooms out from Capitol Hill into the night skyline of Washington. The streets are quiet, federal buildings dark, democracy endures, but tonight it's paused, waiting on 5 votes.
Is the House in session next week? I thought we were too.
He's fast. I think he's out debating some senators right now.
We need 5 Democrats to break ranks. We need 5 of them to wake up and come to their senses and do the right thing for the American people. How long are they going to allow this pain to be sustained? I talked with the president last night. He called me after the peace deal was done, and he and I both lament, we all do, this terrible situation that we're in. Democrats seem to be doing everything except the one thing that Americans desperately need and deserve, and that's passing our clean CR to get the government operating again. That's all we're asking of them. Stop the political stunts. Stop the madness. Stop saying that you're enjoying inflicting pain on the American people, for goodness sakes, and pass the clean CR. That you don't play games with people's lives. They're the ones playing politics, not us. I've explained this, and I'll say it again. If there was something that we could peel off of the CR, if I could take a Republican priority or policy or trick or gimmick off the CR and make it more palatable for the Democrats in the Senate to vote for, I would have already done so.